Hello and welcome to Business Tech Insights. Today, I'm joined by Frank Gonzalez. Uh, Frank, would you give us a little introduction about who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'll let you know. I'm actually an architect based in one of the suburbs of Chicago. Predominantly, what I work is usually on existing buildings, existing structure, whether it's a home or commercial building. My job, the technical term that's used is called forensic architecture, or as a forensic architect. And that means basically real simple. I troubleshoot existing buildings if they have water leak problems, cracks in the foundation or the walls. I come in and try to figure out why. I provide evidence-based information. There's no guesswork. If you have a water leak, there's equipment I use for that. Then and I do still design new buildings, new structures, but predominantly my bread and butter has been existing buildings. I'm both a licensed architect and a contractor. I teach construction classes at a local university here, um, and I provide licensing courses for in the city of in the city of Chicago. If you want to be a mason or tuck pointing or a bricklayer or pour concrete like driveways and sidewalks and things, you need to be licensed, and so I provide those courses to help people, navigate the exam. Same thing with roofing. I do the same thing with roofing. Uh, the state of Illinois requires you to be a licensed roofer. You can't replace a roof unless you're licensed. So I provide the same structure, how to navigate the exam, what to expect, and at the same time, I give them more than just helping them pass, if you want to say it that way. I give them realistic examples and nuance to avoid pitfalls when they're doing their installation. So, in a very quick, short summary, that's what I do.
Yeah. So, do you enjoy actually doing the work, or do you enjoy teaching it more?
Wow, that's a very good question. That's the first. I actually like both. My wife wants me to teach, and I say, well, no, I like the hands-on too. The hands-on meaning I'm always out in the field, at a job size, and I feel I was teaching, I was doing it anyway. I've gone to many. I mean, I've been in many seminars where I actually do the presentation, the information, and the PowerPoints and all that. So I am teaching, but at the same time, because I'm so hands-on, you don't see typically, and that's throughout the country. You don't generally see that the architect is also the project manager of the construction or the restoration. Very seldom. The contractor has a superintendent or a foreman, but they know as much as they know. You can't. Um, humans basically, just because we're human, we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. So it's good to have another set of eyes. And I always tell anyone, like, if you see something that doesn't look right, please point it out, because I want to know what's not right. I mean, I'm open to suggestions, and I'm always open to learning another type of trade or something in the industry, particularly when it comes to software, since it's always changing. It's moving so quickly, and AI it's amazing. It just
Oh, yeah.
exploded. So don't even get me started on that. It's like,
Oh, well, yeah, I do want to get into that, but
okay.
in a little bit. First, I want to ask you, looking at your website and watching some of your videos and stuff, you guys focus mainly on older buildings and that sort of thing. Now, do you also do more modern buildings, or
Yes. To
okay?
answer your question in one, yes. Doesn't matter if it's older or, um, the modern building, if you want to consider that, sometimes refer to as contemporary. Um, Sometimes because when they run into issues or when the buildings has problems, it's usually that maybe the schedule for the construction was fast tracked, and you can only go so fast, and mistakes occur, and then they won't appear the first year. They appear 3 and 4 5 years later, and that's more or less the time that I get called in. But it doesn't really matter the type of building. I mean, a brick is a brick, whether it's in a 2-story home versus 30 stories up in the air or something like that. Same thing with other materials like curtain. We call it curtain wall facades. Those are the buildings that are mostly windows and aluminum on the outside or steel. I do that too. Predominantly the market that seems to be, I gravitate, it's more mid-rise buildings with up to 15 stories high. any between 1 and 15, 1 and 20, something like that. It's considered mid-rise. High rise, not so much. Not that I have not done them, but that's not my, it doesn't seem to call me out so much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so why the focus on old buildings? Do you like the old buildings better? Or
Okay. The reason why I chose, I sometimes think sometimes in your careers, things choose you rather than you choosing it. I was a design architect. I was living at the time many years ago in New York City, Manhattan. Worked for a number of design companies, and then when we had the recession, I think they called it. I remember it wasn't a crash per se, but a lot of firms were basically laying off everybody. They were just becoming a skeleton, and then I had to, we all have to eat and survive, pay the rent, with a mortgage. What happened then? I had to start reinventing myself, and I started calling. First, I started doing a lot of freelance, and then sometime down the road, I met a structural engineer that basically needed help with older buildings, small shop, 3 or 4 people, and asked me, do you understand historical buildings?" And I said, "Well, I have a minor in historical buildings from the University of Houston." And he said, "Yeah, sure, come on in." And so it was really good because it was a big eye opener, because before I was spending more time in the office, actually 95% of time in an office. This one was broken 50-50. You design a repair, then you would go out in the field once the contract was implementing the repair, check them, make sure it's actually they're following the scope of work. And that's led me to what I'm doing now, more or less in that sense. And so when I came to Chicago, I was I basically looked for firms that were doing older buildings, historical, and sometimes non-historical. We just call them contemporary, and that's how I cut my teeth in preservation of historical buildings.
very cool. And do you prefer doing more commercial buildings or residential?
Um, Good question. That's very good. I actually, I want to say both, but for the most part, I'm doing more residential because homeowners, um, sometimes depending on the homes, certainly the larger homes, um, there's a lot of issues that they don't see, but they know they're experiencing. So one thing leads to another. And there's something I do that I mentioned earlier, is that I do the water testing. We call it water testing. People think you're testing the water for drinking. No, no, it's different. It's actually exterior wall intrusion testing. Or envelope, because it includes the top, it includes the roof and the walls. And so I create an apparatus that mimics a controlled rainstorm, and with that data, we have someone inside the home or in the building and another person out. And we're all monitoring. This is very technical. It's following ASTM, which is the American Testing Standard for Materials. Um, and so, uh, the issue is that once we find the issue, we will write a report based on our finding, and we provide recommendations of repair. And occasionally they want to ask for a budget. We give them a general budget because all the contractors price everything differently. So that's led me to is that sometimes they say, "Well, since you found the problem, can you fix the issues?" And I go, "Yes, of course." And specifically, we're just focusing on the water intrusion. We're not going, if a corner of the window is leaking, we're going to address if it's a flashing problem, if it's a lintel flashing problem, or a perimeter, or if it's a few bricks off to the side. We just plug that hole. We call it plugging it. We're not really plugging. We're putting flashing. Everything gets moved out. All the right materials get installed. And then we sometimes will water testing it to make sure, just for me, to give some form of a guarantee that it's working properly, the repair. And that's how we approach things. We don't say to the client, "I think it's the brick," or "I think it's the window," or in my 20 years, I've been like, "Well, 20 years of what?" I mean, honestly, I hear this a lot with contractors. "Well, what does that mean? What are your credentials for 20 years?" "Well, I started when I was 20 doing it." "Well, okay, but can you, where did you go to school? Where was your trade school? And how did you come to," those questions, they just go nuts on me. Sometimes I have to say, "Okay, well, you know what? Let me think about it," meaning I'm moving on.
Yeah. Yeah. I deal with similar things in the technology industry. You got um, people, the technology industry is so wide that you get people with different experience levels that don't always translate across either. So, um, So with this water testing apparatus, did you design this yourself, or is this some
Designed
commercially
it.
available thing?
Yes, it's I designed it. It's a series of pipes. If maybe another time I can send you photographs or something, and you can get a good visual. I have plenty of videos on that, how it's performed. And my website, I have glimpse of it. But if you want something a little bit more, a little longer, it's better to get an idea how it's performed. It's a I did not learn it in college though or university. That no, I went to a design school mostly. And even when I started doing my restoration, that came about years later, I think in my early 40s, late 30s. That and it's you could purchase the let's just call it the device or the apparatus, but it goes for like, I don't know, 15, 20,000, whatever. I don't know. Or you can make it yourself. I made it myself. Say, I looked at that like, I think I know how to make that. And I put it together. It's a series of pipes and they're all dimension. It's horizontal and it goes down. And then and the testing is basically a soft water penetration. It seems like it's more like oh gosh, like a light rainstorm. So we call it a controlled rainstorm. And basically we're soaking the wall. Now there's different types because there's one called a chamber. I don't want to go into that but this is basically very simple. Take the apparatus, install it properly where you think the leak is located. You have to move it, but we do that. In other words, we start from the bottom up to basically, obviously, make sure that all the obvious points are basically tested. Meaning, don't go exactly because what if it's a little higher, a little lower? You don't know where that leak. We have to start a little bit, work our way up. Every 20 or 30 minutes, the apparatus gets moved up. And once we find a breach, call it the breach, we then remove some drywall from the interior. If it's drywall, if it's another material like stucco, well, that's another, much more involved. And then we perform the testing because I have to see how the water is migrating. The water's not going to go straight. Water follows the direction of least resistance. And so it's following. So maybe the leak could be over here, but it's appearing here. Okay. Or like that. Usually it goes down. And so we have to identify that. And that's led me to performing repairs based on those findings. Physical repairs, I call them.
Do you use any other sort of kind of high tech tools when doing inspections and stuff, like drones or IR cameras or anything like that?
Yes, yes, yes to all the above. We have drones. We perform a number of the. We'll have flyovers and things like that. Then IR cameras, we use them. You're as good, any operator. You're as good as as your equipment. Meaning, in other words, you have to know how to use your equipment because if you're just a novice using, you're going to make mistakes because, like infrared, you're going to, the photographs are mostly very cloudy looking. If it's cold, it'll point it out. That helps, but you're still not pinpointing the location. You're in the general area. And so that helps because now you can, okay, it's going to be between 5 to 6 feet over here in the corner of this building, versus over there or somewhere else. And so, but then you really have, at the end of the day, it's hands-on. You got to do the hands-on water testing because you got to isolate it to where's the source. I don't discourage IR testing. I just know that you're as good as the equipment. And so, because if
Definitely.
it sees that, for example, if it sees like a pipe inside the wall or the drywall, let's just say even a conduit. I don't know how your audience, how well they're informed about. I'm using conduit basically means it's an electrical pipe with wires inside. That's it. That's cold. And it's going to appear on the IR as a cold spot. But say, oh yeah, there it is. Well, you better be sure because it might be pointing to a pipe or metal or nails or screws. It could actually confuse you or, well, not necessarily confuse you. No, I don't say confuse in the sense but it's going to point you the wrong direction. That's all.
Definitely. It could be misleading.
That's right. Misleading. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you like, do you subcontract all your work, or do you have your own staff and crew, or how does that work?
For the testing, it's my crew. For the repairs, I subcontract the work only because I do so much variety from not just testing, but I also get called into because of my background and so many years. So like, hey, look, there's a designer here or an interior designer. We have drawings to renovate our bathroom or our kitchen or our basement, whatever. I can do that. I have a crew for that. Or they need painting because it's interesting. Once the client has confidence and has basically you've built a relationship with them, they really don't want to go anywhere else. I don't give false information. I give them the right price. I explain the process, and then many times they say, "Oh, I wish I would have known you before." But when they see my prices and they compare me to someone else more for the construction, and like, you're more expensive. Like, well, I'm including more services than they are. And how do you know what are their qualifications? And you just said to me a minute ago that you wish you would have known me, but now you're going with a lower bidder because you feel that I'm too expensive, and I'm trying to give you some common sense. You want to hire the right people, whether you're doing software, you want to go to the right doctors, you want to go to the right lawyers. You don't want
Yeah.
to go always to the bottom, in the bottom feeder, like, okay, we'll do it. Like, okay, good luck.
Yeah, well, and oftentimes those cheaper contractors, they can actually cost you more in cleaning up after them if they make a lot of mistakes. Or I've seen, like, we do security cameras and network infrastructure installs and that sort of thing, and we're more expensive than some of the other guys around. But I've had to clean up after them before, or I've heard stories where they bid at a certain price, but then they get in there and they didn't plan well enough. And so then there's a bunch of change orders and it ends up being at least as expensive as our bid was that included everything up front.
Okay, yeah, I got 3 words for that. Welcome to the club. Happens to me a lot. They're like, oops, okay, yay, okay. And then they're telling me, oh, but we spent so much money on that. Now we don't have that budget. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you went through that, but you knew me before. I don't
Yeah.
know what to say. I just, just apologize for, and I hope I go, well, one day when you can call me. I mean, sometimes I'll lower my prices to try, not necessarily match them, but just to be sensitive to their, I guess, their mistakes. I don't know. But you can't do it too much because what's the point? I mean, look, anywhere, the material cost is always the same pretty much throughout the country. The labor cost will change slightly depending, but it's pretty close. So,
Mhm.
and then you got to put in time for yourself because you're managing it too. You're not just putting, you know, you know, 6 guys or 8 individuals to go do it, and then you're not going to supervise them because they don't have the insight. There's usually they're a little bit younger than me, or something a lot younger, um, and they need guidance, and then they're trying to learn too. So I'm happy to teach them, so one day they can be independent too. So it's not, I mean, it's not all me.
Well, yeah, and you're right about like the material costs being about the same and stuff, except there is difference in price depending on the quality of materials. Like
True.
like I'm sure it's the same for your industry, but like when we're doing a network install, we buy quality networking cable. We could probably spend half as much on network cable if we bought the cheapest available, but I've done that in the past and I've learned the hard way that that cable doesn't hold up. It's hard to terminate. You know, it just causes all sorts of problems that end up costing more time. And I think it's the same with labor too. Like I could probably hire guys all day long for $15 an hour here because cost of living's pretty low and stuff. But the guys that I'm going to be able to hire for $15 an hour aren't going to have the experience or the reliability of the guys that I pay, 35 or $40 an hour.
Yeah, that's true I would think, believe, for almost any industry. I have the same. When I say I'm teaching, I don't want to have someone who's very green on my job site because then what's the point? I might as well do it myself. So I have to hire someone that I can give them some direction, and they say, "Oh, I get it. Okay, I'm moving on now." Boom. So that's right. I can't pay um such low. like you said, $15 versus maybe 30 or 40, depending. A finished carpenter is not cheap. They're 60 depending an hour. But usually they look at the drawings and go, I get it. Boom. They just run. And it also saves you time in the job. So if someone with experience could probably do it in, let's just say 4 days. I'm making this up. Well, 5 days. If you have someone who's so green, it's gonna take him forever. It's gonna take him 10 days. I'm like, okay, now you're blowing the budget, even though you think you have the cost is lower, but now they're taking longer and they're making mistakes along the way. So
Yeah, definitely. So with some of these bigger projects that you take on, how do you organize everything? How do you organize all the labor and the materials and plan appropriately so you don't end up with a bunch of problems?
the best way in construction is try to get all your materials delivered as much as you can on site before you start. So that way, because delivery of material, it's in construction, it's well, since COVID, even just about when COVID, there's been delays after delays. And now, even after COVID, there's still delays, not as much, but there's still delays. So you want to make sure you have all your materials ready to go where they're just like on, autopilot. Yeah, they know you have the drawings right there on site, hard copies. We have all our laptops, computer, but don't take a laptop to it won't last very long. It'll get dropped somewhere or a big screen and put up, and they need to be moving around very quickly. So you know paper drawings are still very useful. Just plan it out in advance. Estimate the project as best as you can. There's always going to be unforeseen issues. You explain that to the client. Along the way, you give them update. I like to do that because, like everyone, we've learned the hard way. When they don't get updates, and the end say, "Well, it costs 15 or 20% more." Like, "Well, yeah, but this happened, that happened." Like, I don't want to hear it. You said this quote, and you never brought it up again. So, when I see an issue, particularly in restoration, where let's just say you're removing some bricks because they're cracked, spalled, and then all of a sudden behind it, let's just say it's a house, for example, and then you find out the wood behind it's rotted, like the 2x4s and the 2x10s, whatever. You're not going to just cover them back up. You let the client know, look, this we could see that. And into my contract, I say, um, unforeseen item that you can't see visually from the exterior will be brought to the attention of the client, and a new budget will be developed based on our findings. And I'm not going to slap them with. I will let them know. And then when it does happen, I bring it up. I said, look, I'm just going to charge you time and material. It's not like I'm going to take advantage of, oh, look, I found this. Let's just add another 40% more. Like, no, that's not the way to go. No
Yeah,
one
yeah.
likes that.
So how does your background as an architect shape how you do jobs and stuff? Because you have kind of this extra knowledge and extra insight than just a normal general contractor, or at least so it seems.
What's enabled me is, and this is long before I was even a licensed architect, actually right after school, I kept saying, I want to be able one day to look at a wall or a building. I want to be able to determine more or less the age of the building and see how it's built, like almost like having X-ray eyes. Through the years, with so many hundreds of buildings I've restored and some I built, you do have a good insight for that. It takes a person you have to have the passion to be good in any industry. If you have passion, then you do, because you're taking it to a different level. It's not just you're trying to make money. For lack of a better word, you're actually the money. I don't even see the money as I am looking to fix the problem. Yes, I have to put a budget together because I need labor, I need materials, and of course, and I want to get paid for my time. But I'm looking at it very critically, and so that's what's enabled me to be as successful, hopefully, or smart. I hope, you know. And so, but you definitely have to have the passion and love, because when I speak about construction and restoring, hopefully I can convey that, and hopefully the client can pick up on that. And I treat every home, every building, like if it was mine, if it was my property, because and it's obviously we do here. The warranties vary from state to state as far as construction in Illinois, it's 1 year because that's required by law, but they can call me 2 years later, 3 years later, and say, Frank, there's an issue here. Can you come and visit? And turns out, like, well, wasn't an area where we did because I keep a lot of field reports and also document a great deal because sometimes the clients forget that, oh, you did work on the north side, and now they're pointing out to the south side of the building. And like, we were never there. And so,
Mhm.
but they don't remember, and I don't expect them to remember. So, um, yeah, I still come back. Even if there's a question, I still come back. I mean, I look at it like, okay, yeah, okay. That's an issue, but many times it's not an area of the building that we repaired because restoration, you're doing it in sections. It's not like a complete blanket. So because of that, people many times forget that where you were or how you were. So, and I've seen other architects or people in my field, engineers too, fall on their face because they didn't have the records weren't really kept. And that's super important. I would think for anybody in any business. So.
Hmm. In some of these historic buildings you're doing restorations in, like if you were doing a really deep restoration with electrical, plumbing, all that sort of thing, how do you balance keeping the um, keeping it historically accurate, but still updating like electrical, plumbing, the energy efficiency of the building, how like that kind of stuff?
What you want to do before you start any project, whether it's interior or exterior, you want to photograph it, pretty much entire building, call it the property if you want to say. And the reason why you do that, because when you're removing, when your crews are removing, one has to keep track of what they're removing, where they're removing, because we're not, like I said earlier, is that we're doing it in sections or sections being restored. And then you refer to those photographs. Okay, this outlet was over here. Yes, needs more amps, and so on and so forth. Or the bricks were very the I'm trying to they were corbelling, there were some arching or some details on the brick. They're not going to remember that. So you're now mimicking the same design. So you don't move away from that, and so that way it doesn't look like. But that's documentation, and not very few contractors will do it, or sometimes they'll hire an outside outfit, an architect or a engineer to do that for them, or they do it themselves with a lot of photographs. Um, Not all I'm doing. I've seen some do it, so I can't say that it's not done. But my experience, you always do it. So.
Mm. I think that's probably best practice, and then you can plan your project better just in general too.
Right, right. And one of the things I think you meant your question earlier about the material costs, I go to the supply houses to buy them, rather than going to don't want to give names out there, but local hardware stores, because they run a lot of specials and the materials are usually inferior. You don't want that. So, um,
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I think that's kind of a tip for anybody. Like I've been doing some work on our house, and I've been going to the building supplier rather than the hardware store because the lumber is higher quality and it's actually less expensive too.
Yes, well, some many times it is, and that's right. It's higher quality and less expensive, true. And you want to make sure that let's say 2x6, 2x4, 2x8, you when you look at them, it's not the wood itself is not sagged a bit or it's not twisted. So, oh my gosh, when we were working through COVID, oh, everybody had whatever they could get their hands on. It's like, okay, man, this is insane. This wood is like going east and west on me. I'm like. So yeah, but that all changed. So we're back. It's about to get to normal, whatever normal is.
Now you briefly mentioned it earlier, but I want to step into the conversation of AI and how is that affecting your industry, and what is your general feeling on AI?
AI it's good. Uh, like everything, you have to have a certain experience when you're, for example, when I'm writing reports or I'm writing, it's good if my mind, it freezes and like I can't come up. Like, okay, let me ask a question, and it jogs my memory. Oh, now I know what I want to say, and so it helps. In that case, it does work very well. Uh, and then, or I see something, well, they're pretty close to it, but then I read it like, no, there's a few things that need to be added, or extract too much, or extract some. And I think AI works well with that. They're using it for estimating a great deal, but boy, you gotta be real careful with that because every read, it's very general, right? And so, it's gonna throw the kitchen sink, everything, the toilet, everything, the faucet all together, and there it is. Like, huh? Wow. No, that's not what I'm looking for. So one has to be the same thing with any, like I say, infrared or IR. Like you're as good as the equipment, or the equipment is as good as you. Sorry, the other way around.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is true. I mean, we use AI um, kind of to consolidate data and help us write documentation, kind of like what you're describing. But we can say, oh, I need a device use policy for X type of business with this many employees using these type of devices. What should all be included in there? And can you create me a quick template?
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually, it uses, or I mean, it requires more editing and tweaking after whatever it spits out, but it gives us a good starting point and actually saves us quite a few
Well,
hours
that's
of
true.
work.
It's worth it, even for specification. Would have to write specs. The more specific you are, I've been learning more with them. But I mean, writing a good, solid paragraph, not like one sentence, it helps better because then it homes in closer to what you're looking for. But you do need editing. The knowledge that you're looking, and it's like, okay, wow, they're pretty close. I'm impressed. I don't know how AI in the future is going, because they say sometimes it's going to replace humans. I don't know how that's going to turn out. I'm not saying it won't happen. I just don't know how it's going to turn out because you still have to have experience. AI is being created by humans, right? Okay. So with our whatever we have, and by many humans, right? So then there might be a point it gets so good, but still removing that human out of that, I don't know, that system, it could create more problems. Could be a lot of good for lawyers. There'd be a lot of lawsuits.
It could be. I read a really interesting book recently that made a really good argument for it is describing how AI isn't programmed like your traditional application. It's more grown, almost like a child, which sounds kind of weird on the outset, but it makes sense. These AI models are almost like black boxes. They're designed to learn, uh, but they don't necessarily the architects of the software don't really understand and how they're coming to the conclusions they're coming to.
Well, that's true. The people who are writing, I guess, the algorithm for AI, is that right? Um, don't know anything about your profession or my profession. And so they're just creating a software that's going to answer questions. But if they take one paragraph of mine and let's just put in, and that thing spits out something, they won't know what anything means. And I don't expect them to. But then again, you need still the expert that understands that profession really well to go back and say, okay, it's missing so many items in there, and you have to go edit and proof it, and basically determine when it's. But it does help. Not gonna. I'm
Yeah,
not against it at all. Heck no, no, no. That would be counterintuitive. But you have to be very careful. You want to have smart people always around you. That's what I say.
yeah, you can't always trust what it spits out.
Yeah, yeah. Although some people think it does. They're like, this is really good. And like, okay, even just the English, read it again. That grammar sounds not so good.
Yeah, yeah. Or some of the there's these stories coming out of people treating it as a therapist or as a
I've heard that.
yeah, and it can be very, very dangerous in that situation.
Some people are treating it, I heard, like if there was a partner, a human. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's taking it way too far. That's kind of like the dark web. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I agree. So, your industry, how do you think it's moving into the future with some of the tools that you've described, and with AI and that sort of thing? Um, where do you see it in the next decade or 2 decades?
Well, I think what's going to happen, and it's already there's discussions around that. For example, designing a home. If you can plug in all the information you're looking for, 4 bedroom, 6 bedroom, and you give the sizes, how many bathrooms, and the more detail you are, it literally creates a nice floor plan. Like, whoa, that is pretty cool. And then you can say, I want it to look like, I don't know, say something like Gothic or something like Romanesque, but modern Roman. I'm not talking back to or because people or Tudor style or something like that. It does like wow, that's impressive. I mean, are you familiar with Mid Journey?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
image
I've
one.
used Mid Journey. Yeah, it's pretty cool. A friend of mine a couple of years ago introduced me a couple of years. That's pretty new. I think it's like 4 years old or something. It's not very long. So I did that and I was playing with like, oh my gosh, this is cool. And like doing sceneries. And I've actually done I actually done lectures on that. I have to it's been a while since I used it, so I have to kind of uh get practice again. So you get rusty. If you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Definitely.
So that's why I feel now like, oh my God, because I think that's actually a good thing to give at least if a client is describing what they're looking, it'd be nice to kind of plug it in and give them a sense of what they're interested in. And say, okay, this is one option. Okay, you don't like, let's move things around. What at this point, and I brought this question up to other people, is that it'd be nice because sometimes if you want to remodel your existing kitchen or bathroom, you take pictures from whatever angles you can, and then you plug it in, and that way it takes the space. That way, when you present a new design to the client, they can see it in the shape of their curtain design of their home. It doesn't do that yet. And so it's not there yet, but it's going to get there. And that would be like, okay, now it's a tool. Now it's a really good tool. And I want to see because I have to sometimes when I'm in a meeting, I'm still doing my sketches and trying to do okay, what exactly well, like this, my island to be here. They're using their hands to be here. Like, okay, is it 2 inches this way, 2 inches that way? Well, no, I'm not sure, but it's close to where I'm like. So when it does, you take a photograph and they give you the type of more or less woodwork they want. You plug that in, has to be really detailed. And it may take a little bit of time to do it right because until it until you get better at it, it's because it could be like 4 paragraphs of information. And then and give it time, it spits it out. That's what I'm hoping for that they'll develop. And if you find out, let me know because I'm still searching.
I will. Well, have you seen those 3D scans they'll do of homes for listings and that sort of thing?
That works well. Yeah, that's probably going to be the thing. So now to do that, so that works well. If you can do a 3D scan, say of the interior of a home, and then they want to remodel and rechange it, then you plug it in. The thing is that you want to now. I have to not be careful, but I want to say this that sounds the right way is that when you meet a client, they're giving you spitting out, and you're taking your notes and your whatever using on your desktop or on your iPad or whatever. And so it'd be nice while they're telling you this thing records that they're by listening, and you already have an image because you just went really quickly because you don't want to lose time with them or lose their attention. Then immediately say, okay, and you click a button. Is this what you mean? Like now that it just makes it. And that would be pretty impressive because you're doing it in real time at that moment. That client, once they see that, I guarantee you they're not going to go shopping around for another person like you because you have that edge. And that's where all this AI, that's where I'm evolving or trying to learn all these AI, but it's not really there. And for me, at least learning the apps takes hours sometimes. It doesn't come natural, at least not for me naturally. mean, I'm a forensic. I tinker with things. I build things. Um, but when it comes to all this other apps, because sometimes the apps, it's not one app. It's usually a few apps that have to communicate with each other, and sometimes they don't communicate smoothly, and then there's hiccups, and you're like, "Yeek, okay, this is not what I meant." I'm sure you know what I think you
Oh yeah,
discussed.
we deal with that all the time.
I don't see. That's what I need. I need someone that can help me go through the I guess these issues, these bumps on the road, because it takes me a lot longer, because I didn't grow up with a laptop like some did. Or, we were still using pen and pencils when I was going to architecture school, and then even after I graduated. So this has all been really interesting. Now, I don't shy away from it. I embrace it. It's just that it takes longer. And also my value, I feel like, well, I kind of shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing something. I should be troubleshooting something that's really more of a priority than this, because this is for future. But once we get the right apps to communicate together, I know there's infringement laws. No, you don't take this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
you probably know more than that about I don't. But it is a good idea if we can go there.
definitely. Yeah, I think it's going to end up going there at some point. And that kind of AI model you were describing, where you can just show the client, like, oh, do you mean you want it to look like this? They might even say, well, um, I want that cabinet over here instead, and then you can put that in there, and the AI just puts it over there, and you can get like exactly what they want before you leave that conversation.
Right, right. I mean, a lot of architectural firms are, once they have their, say, their design, their building space design, they'll do the flyovers. They'll give the client, the mask and all that, so they can see it. That's a good direction to go, but that's done after it's complete, and that's for new construction. New construction is very different, because you're designing along the way, and you're giving them bits and pieces of the progress of design, make sure that this is the kind of building they need. They're looking at, for if it's a commercial building, they're looking for functionality, to where the employees are going to be sitting, where whatever the deliveries are going to come in from this part of the building, the main entry is going to be here, in this direction. So, and that's great. But when it comes to other things, and then, they'll say, okay, architects have more freedom when they're designing new buildings, even new homes, than they do when you're restoring. Because when restoring, you're kind of limited to that building design already. So that's why it'd be great if you could take AI and take a photograph, then implement it into an AI program, and then add things, add, your cabinets, your sinks, or whatever design. I mean, your lighting, everything into it, and then it can manipulate. I mean, it could generate something very quickly, and then you have a good idea. Because once the client agrees to whatever design it is, it's very easy then to go shopping around for the materials, because I know what material is needed, how much of that material, and so yeah.
Definitely. Well, what's next for your business? Are you planning to expand to different areas? Are you interested in expanding into new construction, or do you kind of have your niche that you really like, and you're just going to stick where you're at? Yeah.
I mean, I like to stay within the wheelhouse I've been building, but I've been changing through the years. I mean, it's not, it happens. Expanding, I mean, uh, try to work with the problem. Well, a lot of architects is that some clients can afford nicer designs, while others are trying to get by. And so there's a split there, because if you know that you have a client that has a budget that's established, you can work with that. And there are others who says, I don't know how much it's going to cost. I'm like, well, I mean, a nail is going to be too expensive for them already, because they don't have a budget. And so the difficulties is for expanding is acquiring the right clients that can afford your service at a reasonable price. Even my reasonable prices are expensive for other clients, because I understand everybody can only afford so much. Um, And to stay a bit, to grow a business, you need the right clients. I think that's the way I look at it. And the right clients are the ones that are looking to expand their business too and are investing in it. That's the other thing. Invest in your home. Some people just don't like investing in homes, and then they deteriorate. And then when it's times to resell it, it's not going to sell as much as your neighbor if your neighbor's been maintaining their home. I always say to people, don't be reactive, be proactive. Before you need a roof, replace it. If you wait to the last minute, it's going to cost you more. And they say, well, no, the footprints to say it. No, what happens is when you have water leaks, well, then the plywood underneath the shingles has to be replaced and it's more expensive. Now you have to spend more money. And what if the moisture had been trapped for so many years and now it's gone into your woodwork, your framing? Now you have to replace sections of those rafters or joists. And so, so I always say be proactive. Look at your property, walk around it, see what needs to be done, and improve on it because it's going to be much less expensive. I've worked with clients that they call me and say, "Give me, you know, can you walk around, inspect it?" I just charge them for an hourly fee, not much, and then I give them a report. And this is what you need to do. And they say, "Okay, go ahead and do it." Okay, okay, nice. But that's good. I mean, that's how I treat my home or any of my properties.
Mhm.
Um, and I have to, I have to fix my own properties too, restore it. So if someone sees it that way, it's like buying a car, a new car, and then assuming that it'll never need a tune up or need an oil change. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely. Do you see that a lot where people neglect their homes or their buildings?
A lot. Or they say, I'm moving in 5 years. I only want the bare minimum. And, what do you know? You know what there's a saying, they say, there's two materials that hold America together: duct tape and caulking. I see that a lot. I've seen the craziest thing with so much sealant, with caulking and sealant. Um, so around windows, like, oh my gosh. And you probably, you probably have mold growing in there. You don't, just because you don't see it, it's, doesn't mean it's not there. So it's like, oh, wow. I don't know if I want to work with you because first of all, I don't think you're going to want to pay to, replace all that. Or they'll say, what do I care? I'm selling it in 2 years. Like, I don't think I want to, pawn this off to somebody else with, a young kid, a young family, and they're gonna, they're on a budget too. Like, no, man, fix your stuff. Just, you're all, we're all still living the same planet, and good happen. I believe in karma. What goes around comes around, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah,
Say with the
yeah.
good.
You, so we take a proactive approach to our work too, because it's kind of the same what you describe is, um, if you're not maintaining your computers, you're not keeping up to date with the latest security stuff, you're just opening yourself up for a security breach or for a computer to fail that might have a lot of work on it that you still need. And then it becomes either impossible or very expensive to recover that. Um, so, why do you think a lot of people don't don't think of that proactive approach? Why do you think that they're mostly reactive?
Because I think that they're saving as much they can and put it in the bank. They don't realize that their home has, now this is for some people, okay, it's not applied to that their home is also like has a value to it for the future. It's an asset. If you maintain it, it's going to give you a good return when it comes to sell it. Because eventually we all, we either buy property, whether you downsize or you whatever, like now with my wife and I thinking we're empty nesters, our kids, one graduated from college, the other one's on its way. You have a house that was when they were younger, it was great. Now we're thinking, well, we know we have to update. I mean, we've been updating already. It's not like when we bought this house, it was a mess, but we restored it because I said, oh, we can do that. We purchased at a good market price, and then we said, look, let's do it in sections. We started with a bathroom renovation and a kitchen, but still, if you want to hope that a young couple here, they have a certain taste. It seems like the taste now is I call it the flavor of the month. It's a lot of white around. You know,
Yeah.
everything seems to be white. It's like, okay, that's fine. So we have to This is interesting. This is a quick story. I don't want to dwell on this too much. I had a friend that sold a house 2 years ago, and it's a historical home. It's built in the 1890. Gorgeous. They maintained it though. Um, but when they lived through it for a good 15 years or something, and about 2 years ago they sold it. They had beautiful woodwork that I was like mahogany. I mean, you could see it around the trims. All the realtor says everything has to be white if you want to get a young family here. Like, oh my God. And then they had to paint it. And I go, oh my God, the charm went away. Fine, but they sold it, and there's a young family there, right? It's a and so that's just one example. I mean, and so like the color white, I'm not sure why, but it doesn't really matter. It is what it is. So that's a trend. So we have to update our house. I mean, everything looks fine, and there's but we'll have to update it too to kind of attract um a younger family, because that's probably
Mhm.
who's going to build. Because it's a pretty good size house. It's 3-car garage, and it has a bunch of stuff that rooms that we don't use anymore. Only the dog just seems to roam around. Like I always say,
Mhm.
the only person you hear here is usually my wife is in one room, I'm in another room doing something else, and then you hear the dog barking.
Yeah. Well, I feel a little bit attacked because our house is it's over 100 years old. I think it was built in 1920.
Oh, really?
And yeah. And so we have like wood trim and stuff, and we did leave that, but um it was quite the project when we bought it. It was a hoarder house. And we ended up just buying a ton of white paint and painting everything inside white, except for the wood trim. We kept the wood trim.
That's good. I mean, no, I don't. It's everywhere. I mean, everyone is doing it. I mean, it's not. I will probably have to do it the same way. So it's not like I'm not attacking. I'm just giving you an example. I don't know. Maybe in 5 years from now, it's going to be, I don't know, pink or some other color we can't even think of. I don't know. Or for a while it was gray. Everything
Yeah.
was gray for a while. And then we migrated to white. I guess people got sick of the gray. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I was a kid, it was, really thick carpet and wood
Yeah, the
paneling.
carpet, the shag carpets.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, now everything is really thin. What people seem to like is still the wooden floors. That doesn't change. I mean, people prefer wood than carpeting. Maybe, yeah, maybe in your bedrooms because it's nice, when you get out in the morning. We do have carpeting, but we have it localized. It's not throughout the entire home. There used to be the entire home, and now it's in parts of the home. So yeah, it's all
Yeah.
changed. Everybody seems to have an island or close to an island. So which is fine because it's very practical. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
What kind of home do you live in?
I mean, I don't know much about architecture, so I couldn't tell you, but it was built, I think, 1920, and it's a single level stick built house. So,
Okay. What part of the country?
uh, we're in Montana. We're like an hour away from Canada and an hour away from Idaho. So way up there.
Oh, that's cool. I love Montana. Been there. So
Yeah.
I've skied Big Sky. We're a big skiing family, so yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, in Chicago. That you know what we had 2 days ago. Now some of it melted. We had more snow than we had in 5 years, and we had about accumulated probably about a foot of snow. Like, oh my God. And I had to go, shovel it and plow it. Like, oh, that's a lot of fun. So, but no mountains here, all flat.
Yeah, I know. I know. I used to work for a real estate investment firm based there in Chicago and got to visit, and it's very flat. Too flat for my taste.
Well, I actually, living in New York, we used to ski in Vermont, and it was pretty easy because it was like 2.5 hours, 3 hours drive, and it was nice. And that's where I learned how to ski as a young adult. And then we moved to Hinsdale because my wife is from it's a suburb of Chicago, and so my wife is from the Midwest. We lived through 9/11 when we just after we had gotten married, and she had our first child, and she said, "Why don't we move to Midwest? My mom is there." Rah, rah, rah. So I said, okay, good idea. And then I realized, The snow doesn't bother me. It's just when it goes like 15 degrees, 10 degrees, -5. I don't know. That's not my cup of tea. I grew up in Miami.
Oh, yeah, it gets, last year we got down to like -25,
Oh my
and the
gosh.
year before that was, -35 was the coldest.
Wow, that's
Yeah, yeah.
insane. Oh my gosh. That's when your entire body head is covered. The only thing you see is eyes.
Yep, yep. No, and when it's that cold out, if you, like, take your tea kettle and boil some water and put it in a cup, and you walk outside and you throw it in the air, it just, like, instantly turns to mist.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. That's good.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, we do that a little bit here, but only when it goes -10 or something. That's what we do.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Interesting. Well,
Well, Frank, we're running up on time. Thank you so much for joining me today and talking about your business. Before we go, one what's one piece of advice you could give to people who own historic buildings?
we sort of touched on it. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. We were back and forth with email, so I appreciate it. Just simple, just be proactive, because if you wait till you can visually see how the materials around your house, what needs to be repaired. You can visually see it. Just don't wait too long. I mean, the main ones, particularly on the outside, your home or your building is basically, think about it as being, the skin of your body. You want to moisturize it once in a while, right? So you want to take care of the exterior, because the windows themselves, windows are not there forever. The approximate lifespan for a window could be anywhere between 20 and 30. 30 are pushing it, particularly since more of the windows, the insulations of around the windows and the glasses of this changing. The technology, they're getting better and better. Don't wait too long, because you're losing heat. Yeah, so I would just say be proactive. And if you have any questions, you can reach me. I can answer them as best as I can, just to give you, a sense. Doesn't matter. I actually do fly around the country from time to time. So I'm always helping individuals to, okay, think about this. There's different products you can use. Um, just do a little bit of research when you're about to find out. There's things that you want to know about any company or any person that's going to work with you. Find out a little bit about their background, their education, their credentials, how many years they've been doing, and be real careful with for me, all these Google rating. Be careful; they can be manipulated, because get calls from homeowners and building owners, and like, yeah, they had a 5-star rating, and look at that. Then I go and I go back, and as you dig down, oh my gosh, this person was in deep water before. I mean, he made a lot of mistakes, or that company made a lot of mistakes. So
Mhm.
just do a little research, but it's pretty simple. I mean, the questions you ask are simple, and that credentials, your experience, see if they're willing to offer a few clients that you can call directly. More about the service and data, because every building is different, like every human being is different. So it's not going to be unique. It's not a cookie cutter, but just bottom line, be proactive, not reactive. So that's all.
Definitely. Well, uh, where can people find you?
They can go to either my website, which is www.us-BES, US for United States, -BES for buildingefficientsolutions.com. I could be easily found on the web. I can give you my phone number, because people call me everywhere, because it's on my website, my cell phone. I'm the one that answers, and I have a few office individuals. Sometimes I like to answer, because I can ask the questions when I hear them, I listen to them like, oh, okay, this is what you're having these issues. So it's my number is, here in America is 630-842-5551. So
All right.
transparent. Just go to my website. Everything is there. My whole life is there. I'm, I'm not running away. You can track me down pretty quickly.
All right. Well, thank you, Frank, for joining us today. And thank you all for listening or watching on whatever platform you're on. You can find this podcast on YouTube and Spotify. And we'll see you in the next one.